This just really frustrates me, and it makes me think of the Heisman vote, which I take very seriously. I do. Caleb can tell you, I do like 4 or 6 hours of research before I send in my Heisman vote. Apparently, nobody did any research whatsoever into the league that they cover because Vanderbilt received 4 votes to win the SEC. 5?
5. They were tied for 4th most.
What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
How does that happen, Caleb? How does Vanderbilt receive 5 votes to win the SEC? I mean, I'm all for people having different takes and that sort of thing. And if you want to pick South Carolina to win the East, at least you could make an argument for that. If you want to pick A&M to win the West, you could make an argument for that. You and I wouldn't agree with either. But to win the entire league, Vanderbilt, and it happens to be in Nashville, where there's just some TV people that were in attendance because it was in Nashville. And I pick TV people because not all the time, but most of the time, they're the less learned of the media individuals. Is that why they got 5 votes to win the entire league, right? Not the East.
Yeah, the entire league. Come on. And people can laugh at me on this because people can talk about how this is a joke and whatever, and it's just the writers. I wrote about this weekend. So this was the first time I ever had an official ballot to vote on things in my life. And y'all can say I was starry-eyed being at SEC Media Days, but I took it very, very, very seriously.
You weren't starry-eyed at all. You were working hard.
Yeah, and I took it, and here's why I took it seriously. I don't think, and Dave, you know this as well as I do, there is no sport where writers have wielded more power than college football. Writers made college football matter.
Named national champions.
Yes. Writers for the first 130 years of the sport were responsible for who the national champions were. No other sport was like that.
And don't think for a second if they decided they didn't like school X and they kept them around 20 when they should be around 10, that it wouldn't affect where they are in the college football playoff, because it would. But anyway, I know they're 2 separate things, but one day when we have a 12-team college football playoff, if the writers don't like Coach X because he's hard to deal with, Bill Snyder, then you start voting him down. And then it's harder to make the argument they should be in the 12-team playoff. So there's still a ton of power there. Whether or not they deserve it could be the argument. But go ahead, finish your thoughts. You did take it seriously. You were into it. You're like, where's my email to fill it out? And bam, there we go.
Yes. And for those who question this, guys, SEC football is not a thing if Grantland Rice doesn't exist in the early 20th century. He made SEC football popular because of his writing before the SEC was a thing. Southern writers, the writers that wrote about the Rose Bowl game that changed the South in Washington and Alabama, the writing of that in 1926 was what made college football such a big deal in the South. So I took this very seriously. When you do something as laughable as voting Vanderbilt to win the SEC, Dave, this is the reason white writers have lost the power that they wielded over the last 25 years over college football. And they still have power, but they don't have the power they once had. And it's because of stuff like this that they've lost their power. And who can blame the powers that be in college football to say, why do we have we all laugh at the NCAA and these institutional norms of college football, but they have every right to sit there and say, why should we leave the power in the hands of these writers who are so political with everything they vote on, either as a troll or their feelings on something, that why should we leave the power in their hands? And they have taken so much power away from the writers, and they're going to take power more away. And the AP poll is a huge fun part of college football. The way they're going right now, if they keep doing this stuff, no one's going to care about the AP poll in 20 years. Nobody.
I'm totally with you. And Travis, you said, I don't know anyone who takes these polls seriously, mostly because of the biased votes. Well, maybe that's where we are. It wasn't when I got into this thing. And I'll give you another example. Why did they get 165 first place votes in the West and LSU gets 117? That should be a lot closer. Let's go to the East. Georgia with 265 first place votes, Tennessee with 14. That should be a lot closer. But really, you're right. The one that stands out the most is Vanderbilt. I'll take you to a couple of other ones. Arkansas receiving 3 first-place votes in the West is silly. Auburn 4 first-place votes in the West is silly. Mississippi State 1 first-place vote in the West. That's just not going to happen. Overall, Georgia was picked as the SEC champion, followed by Alabama, LSU, Tennessee tied with Vanderbilt at 5th. So this is not just a website putting together a list. This should be your most learned SEC media, and it just doesn't add up to me why anybody would put Vanderbilt on their ballot. I think it's a little pitiful, to be honest with you.
It's people who don't take their ballot seriously. And by the way, this is, if you go to other sports, this is why the Baseball Hall of Fame is not taken seriously anymore, because writers for 100 years have been political about how they vote. I mean, how many baseball superstars didn't get a unanimous vote for the Hall of Fame because the writer's like, well, this player didn't get a unanimous vote, so I'm not going to vote for this guy then. And writers being petty like that, media and writers built sports in America, and college football no more than any other sport. And they have completely lit on fire the credibility they've built, because you and I both know, Dave, those 5 Vanderbilt voters do not believe in their heart of hearts that Vanderbilt's winning the SEC at all.
No.
They did this because they thought it was funny.
No, I completely agree. Have no disagreement with that whatsoever.